Good morning, Kate. Good morning, Jane.
Good morning, Tara. Good morning, Kate.
Jane, I'm seeing you more than my own husband. Am I boring the hell out of you, Jane? Am I boring your small intestine out of your body, Jane?
The question is, are you bored of seeing me at any of your events?
Well, some of you that have seen, oh, Donna, we love you. Good evening, my queen. Some of you that, oh, I love you so much. I miss you. You're a wonderful human being. I just want to buy you a coffee and a muffin. I spend most of my life going, why can't I buy Donna a coffee and a muffin? Unbelievable. But Jane, as you know, the feminine love for you was expressed during the reading group. I replayed that over and over again. A certain friend of ours just went, I'm kind of in love with Jane. And sort of, and so she might be going, yeah, so everyone's sort of in love with you, Jane. So don't think for one moment that we don't want you in our lives all the time, because we're all just a little bit obsessed by you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and by the way, you were magnificent in that reading group. So was the Queen Maeve, magnificent. But you were great, Jane. It was a very powerful, moving hour, I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for that. Good morning, Maeve.
Good morning. Good morning.
I'm loving the fluffy work. Bit of fluffy.
Well, it's ended up matching fluffy hair and fluffy jumper.
That's incredibly complex. Well done, you. And of course, the wonderful Kate, who we love, Kate. Kate and I have been in touch through the morning.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. I see you got my email and you put up with your old troll goth editor once more for the last time. Oh, darling, you okay? Oh, my goodness, Kate, you've done brilliantly.
It's just me. I am a blubbery person anyway, with all sorts of things, but I was ecstatic to read your email this morning.
Oh, darling one. Well, only because, you know, I'm sort of a bit of a sort of trashy bird, and I come from a bit of a trashy family. So I have to understand middle class language in universities via translation. So that's why when I see something like that, I go, okay, well, let me just render this bourgeois. Let me just bourgeois this up, because of course you're posher than I am, Kate. And oh yes. Oh, have we've frozen
an average person.
You're not an average person. When we may be revealing some of your astoundingness today. And Donna, I've been thinking about you in terms of things we might be talking about today too. You're legendary. And Paul is in the house now. Paul, I believe you're webcasting, narrowcasting to the world through multiple platforms. While you're with us today, but you're not with us today because you're with other people today. Am I picking this up correctly, Paul?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm trying to multitask to the extreme whilst recording a podcast doing Right Club. So yeah, that's my plan.
I can't, and the thing is, I can only watch it, you realise, on repeat later. So it's like I'll be desperate to see you, but I can't do anything. Until after it's over. So Paul, that adds a level of excitement. And Queen Lorraine's in. We can't see video yet, beautiful Lorraine. Oh, she got a problem, Maeve?
She just popped, she put a message up, she just popped out, she'll be back.
Oh, I have this effect on women, and that's just Jane. Right, so colleagues, we'll start where we always start. I know there's so much that Maeve and Kate wants to talk about, and we're just going to change the world in this next hour of Power of Digital Office Hours. But we will always start where we always start. Is there any sort of pressing question or something that's worrying everybody that as a family we can sort through? Now, Maeve went straight to a piece of paper there.
Maeve did. You had like eyesight. I think, is it the hearing? Did you hear the scratch of the paper?
No.
Is that what it was?
No, I've taught first year students since I was 22. And so I'm aware of every single flicker one's face or body. Paul nods with me. You know exactly what I'm saying. If they look, good morning, Lorraine. If they slightly look askew, Paul, I'm there, mate. I'm there.
Yeah. Well, it's so much harder now.
Say it, Paul.
I was going to say, it's so much harder now with computers and iPads to see what they're up to.
Yes, I'm terrible. When I was teaching in Canada, I used to walk up and down the aisles. I'm a terrible person. Remember, I did write a book called Digital Dieting, though, so they needed to expect that. But yeah, I was a hard taskmaster, mister. Okay, so Maeve looked down at a piece of paper.
Yes, so piece of paper. So Tara has asked me to represent Megan. Megan, I hope you're happy for me to represent you out there in cyber world.
Norfolk Island.
Sorry?
Norfolk Island.
Oh, yes, but cyber world in general. I can't make it today because of a conflicting appointment. She'll be there for Right Club. She does have a question. It's a great question, so I'm very happy to represent it. How do I reference from Audible? And what style of referencing is the best practice?
Oh, mate, and this was a great question from our Megan. She is legendary. And the interesting thing is, if she references from Audible, she's referencing the aggregator, which you don't do. So that's like bless her. And so that's like being published with Springer, but finding it on Google and going, I'm going to reference Google, right? So, but bless her for doing this. And can I say, I'm so excited that she's referencing audiobooks. Paul, this is a great worry for me that this great content exists, and we know tens of thousands of people are downloading and listening to these books, but whether or not it makes it into academic referencing modalities, Google Scholar, etc., is another issue. So for Megan, what one does is, of course, audiobooks, like every other book, has a publisher, and Springer publishes some. I know Bloomsbury appear to be going into audiobooks, and of course I use Authors Republic because I'm a nasty, I'm a nasty lefty. Or what have you found, Lorraine? Or you got a style guide up. Oh, I love a woman with a style guide.
I have, I'm looking, but it doesn't say Audible.
No,
unfortunately,
no, that's right, because
this is the latest one.
Isn't that exciting? Because it's the aggregator. See, I want to be Lorraine. See, we're all just a bit in love with Jane, and we're all just wanting to be Lorraine with the books on the desk. I mean, who has a style guide sitting on their
I
desk?
do.
How have we ended up here, colleagues? Unbelievable. But anyway, so reference the publishers as one would normally do. So my perspective, and Lorraine will correct me as she always does, is actually an audiobook is a book. An audiobook is a book. So therefore one would reference it identically to how one would reference a book. It's got an ISBN. It's got a year of publication. It's got all these variables. So let's use the book that the wonderful Maeve was involved in that we launched earlier this year, Know What You Do Not Know. So the reference for that is Authors Republic 2023. And it's got an ISBN if it's required. Now, Paul, oh, sorry, Maeve, go, darling.
Well, I have a question because I come across this myself in the referencing struggle. And by the way, I've given up on EndNote and I just put a reference on the top of every page I do. I'm so annoyed. Anyway, my question is, when we're doing up-to-date referencing, I have so many questions. Thank you, Megan. When we're doing up-to-date referencing, are we putting in a link anymore?
Well, again, it does depend on the referencing style. The whole point is, I mean, if you're using Harvard, which is the bracketing system, which is the end of civilization as we know it. Good morning, Kylie. Kylie's come in at the end of civilization as we know it. We've got to clean herself. So Maeve, you know, we're now in a Harvard time. Even people like me that come from the high humanities, I'm having to use Harvard, and I feel my brain coming out my ear while I do, because that's all it's about. Brabazon 2023, yeah. So the actual point is, if one was using Chicago footnotes, which is an elegant referencing style for a civilized age, which we are not in, that's when one does have, thanks Donna, then one does have footnotes with actually in situ, there's the reference at the base of the page with the link to it, because people forget that the point of referencing was that we can check stuff. And the thing about Harvard is you go, oh, there's a bracket. My life's too short to try and find that somewhere at the end. Whereas if it's sitting in situ with Chicago footnotes, you can say, oh, right, well, there it is. And wow, there's the link. So, and you can click to it and check and verify and so forth. So maybe just depend on the referencing style you use.
Mm-hmm.
I still, for books that I don't write for Springer, I still use the Chicago footnote style, and most publishers are pretty cool with it. Emerald's been very good with it. So if you're interested in the footnoting style, do find a publisher that is elegant for an elegant age. If you want Fordist in, out, shake it all about, then go to Springer and use Harvard.
Well,
yeah.
I use Harvard, so I know that pleases you. But I still have the same question about the link, because I still have that essential belief that the point of me offering you a reference, or anyone else, is that I'm showing you how to find my work quickly.
Oh, yes. So Maeve, at the reference list at the end of an article or the thesis itself, please, absolutely, all the information goes there, including the digital link. But you are right. Sometimes in some modes of Harvard, and I've been doing a lot of work with Google Scholar this week, I'm going, you've left the link off. So, I mean, I can find it. It takes me 12 seconds, cut and paste the reference, put it into Google, find the link, read it.
But we shouldn't have to do that, should we?
Shouldn't have to do that. So absolutely, you need to put the link in, because the link in is the equivalent of the publisher and the place of publication, because there it is, right? So it's about ease of use. So yes, I would absolutely put it in references at the end. For colleagues that are elegant and use footnotes, put it in situ so that humans can engage with you. I mean, you'd say a wonderful good morning to Wumi, and a fantastic good morning to look at that magnificent hair, Anvita. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Looks amazing. Thanks, Anvita. That's we haven't got sound bits. How are you, darling?
Thank you.
Is that all I get?
There's a lot of it.
It looks amazing. I wish I was courageous. My hair is straight up, by the way. So the reason I put it in the bun is it's heading up to God anyway. So I was like, make it work up to God, right? But yours is just fantastic. So Wumi, welcome, my darling. Queen Mary's in the house. Now Lorraine's straight in. So come on, Lorraine, bring it home.
It was just a point for Maeve. You may know this, mate. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold, so I'm a bit nasally. There's a program where you can put, the long URL link, and it shortens it, so it looks much neater in the referencing. I use APA, so I go to that converter. It's free. Just pop them in. You know that, okay? I just thought.
And Maeve, there's a lot of those. The famous one was called.
No, I didn't know that.
I must not laugh. Tiny URL. I would laugh. I'm not laughing. It's not. But anyway, so tiny URL.
Thanks, Lorraine.
And it's free. But the interesting thing is, Lorraine, on that, do you want it tiny? See, this is again our age, or do you want the original URL? See, look at Kylie going, how old is this woman, right? How old is this woman?
It just looks so messy when it's, like some of them are just huge, and it just makes you.
Look, I like size. I do. I won't go any further than that, but mate, think about all the data points that you know about me, Lorraine, all the personal and professional data points you know about me, and
Go big or go home.
Go big and go home. Do it. Just go big or just go big. Go big. But anyway, Lorraine, so your point's a great one for the people that like the tiny URL, do the tiny URL. For people like me, that I suppose it comes from history, Mary, doesn't it? That you want the original as the original appeared with the descriptor, and so you can see the country code and you can see the journal and it's all there. Mary's ignoring me. I'm her embarrassing friend now. So Mary's gone, no, I like the tiny URL too.
Oh, no, I agree. I like the long URLs as well.
She's my friend. Mary's my friend. But anyway, so Lorraine and Maeve like it small. Mary and I like it big. And that's a way to start Friday morning. And that's fantastic. And Kylie, are you in between, mate?
I'm just thinking this is way too early for a conversation like this.
Or too
Welcome
late
to Friday.
Or too late for Paul and Donna. Poor Donna's eyes go, what is going on here? See, you wore the attractive burgundy, you see. So Donna, it's all going on. But that's
too much information, Tara. That's what I'm
saying. I believe in transparency and governance, Donna. And it's just but so that's a great question. And I know Paul thinks this. We desperately want audiobooks to infiltrate's the wrong verb, but be a source of parity in scholarly life. So I want them referenced. I'm increasingly, Paul, in every article I write, in fact, I even did it on the vlog I recorded yesterday morning, make sure there's at least one podcast there or at least one audiobook. So just to start to create the parity in the reference list. Paul, have you got any further advice on that? I mean, am I just sort of alone in this? But I think it's important.
No, yeah, absolutely. something I'm striving for is kind of I'm going to make it up, literacy diversity, have more diverse uses of literacy in our reference, in our research.
Oh, that's
and that's what I put in the chat. I wonder if, I don't know if it goes against the hallowed rules of Harvard referencing. We use it religiously in the UK, but when thinking about the porous research methods of now, can we not hyperlink the whole Harvard reference at the end of an article, so you can click on the whole reference and find the original?
Look, that's increasingly what I've been doing too, Paul. And as you know, some word renderings do it automatically these days. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the automatic one either, but I do like here's the title and the hyperlink is direct. Takes a little bit more work, but that's quite elegant too. I like the look of that in a referencing style. The only worry I've got is for colleagues that may be using screen readers. I don't know enough about the accessibility of embedding the URL at this point. I will find this out, but just making sure that the screen reader can engage with it, that's all. And I don't know if there's an automated, hyperlink coming when the text is being read. I don't know, but I'll find out, Paul.
That's a good idea. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, look, it is. And the final point, I don't know how much the language is used, Donna and Paul, in Ireland, Northern Ireland, or on England, Scotland and Wales, but the notion of nitro is quite a big deal in Australia. Nitro, non-traditional research object. Have either of you come across that phrase at all? Isn't that interesting? So part of the work that I'm trying to do at the moment is work very strongly with our colleagues doing sort of the database work and the research work where, you're counting the outputs and tier 1 and all those people, the metric people. And I'm really trying to help them think about what a nitro is. So if it's a non-traditional research object, how does that work in databases? So these are exciting times, I think. And, in a time where referencing seems to be incredibly dull, this is actually very, very exciting, I think. Thanks for that, Maeve. So that was our first question from legendary Megan. What a question that was. Has anybody else got a topic or something interesting? Good morning, Professor Quentin. Speaking of fabulous, exciting, magnificent moments. Oh, your hair's looking gorgeous, darling. You'll notice Anvita's hair is looking magnificent today too. So it's a great hair day. So colleagues, any other questions or issues before we start working things through? Anvita is straight there. Oh, and then Kate's straight in. Let's go to Queen Anvita and then through to our Kate. Talk to us, my Queen.
Morning. My hair is reflective of my mental state this week. So, when I don't really feel great, my hair's up in a bun and I don't care about it. But yeah, so I've reached a Zen point in the PhD right now. So very excited about that.
That's brilliant.
But my question was, since I have two questions, sorry. So I'm definitely moving ahead with converting it from a PhD by publication to a traditional thesis at the moment. There's still some ambiguity around that and discussions are ongoing with my supervisory team about, I have the systematic review, which is almost ready to go to the publisher.
Yes.
It's potentially, I'm going to say from my standpoint, 1, maybe 2 final edits, like rounds of edits with my supervisors, and it should be ready to go out to the journal. So if I'm doing it via a traditional thesis, am I still all right to publish it? And then if I do that, how does that get incorporated in my thesis? I'm on the fence about it because we've put in so much work into getting it to this point.
Yes.
And if I don't publish it in a timely fashion, being a systematic review, when I go to publish it at a later stage, I will have to update it before doing so.
No, it's got to go out now. So, Anvita, darling, I'll answer that first question first, and I'm so excited I could explode. So what people are forgetting with this notion of the PhD by publication, I'm getting some blowback, Anvita, online. I'm getting some blowback. It's great. But so, Anvita, in the PhD by publication, which of course is an invention, it's a wizard, it is a dragon, right? So it is people are pretending it's this thing, and it's always existed in the traditional thesis.
Yeah.
And systematic reviews that have been published have always existed in the traditional thesis. So, and we love systematic reviews. It's incredibly suitable for the work that you're doing. So absolutely, in, out, shade it all about, straight into the thesis.
Okay.
Right, great. And do it now, send it out to the journal. But what you need to do for me, use a footnote, because we're elegant people. Use an explanatory footnote, Anvita, at the end of the title of the chapter, woof down to a little sexy word.
Yeah.
And then say a version of this systematic review is currently under review in.
Okay.
Boom. And you're doing that because, of course, to avoid the stupid self-plagiarism nonsense.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
go, oh, it's been published, but it's in the thesis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you can solve that by just doing an explanation. So you handle self-plagiarism by self-citation.
All right.
We've
Perfect.
done. Easy. Great question.
And then that effectively would then become a chapter in the thesis. So I would have to like depublish that systematic review for the thesis, or is that just that it done?
No, the only thing you change, so if I send out to the journal, the only thing you change in the chapter is, instead of saying in this article, you go in this chapter.
Okay. All right.
So
Perfect.
Control find article, control replace chapter.
Yep.
And that's why you've said in that elegant explanatory footnote an earlier version, because you changed 3 words.
Yeah. Thank you. That brings me to my second question, which is, I recently did a timeline just for our internal reference as to how long this data application and approval process has taken.
Yes.
And it was quite astounding, the amount of time when you actually put it down in terms of dates, how long it has taken. So it was thrown around that I could potentially just write up about it. Would that make sense to just include that as part of my thesis? Just to talk about the entire process and why it's taken this long, or, the processes that are in place and how it's becoming increasingly difficult to access data in time.
So I love this, and I know this is sort of like the X-rated or the R version of digital office hours this week. But Anvita, what we need in theses is we need more knickers out, right? So we need to see more of how, we need to see the pain, mate. What methodology is at its most basic, let alone epistemology and ontology, and we'll get to that in a second, is it's about saying, put the problem into the work, which is ontologically resonant. It's saying, what ontology is what are the objects that exist in my world and how are they connected, right? And so, Anvita, what's happened is you've gone through a lot of pain. You've tried to gather some data sets, put all the dates in, all the information, full transparency, and then explain this is what happened, and this was the cul-de-sac, and this was the decision that was made. That is magnificent methodology. It is magnificent doctoral work. It is magnificent research. Now, the problem is, and Professor Quinton knows that this is one of my buttons, is we don't hear enough about the mistakes and the errors that happen in research. And actually, that is, I would argue, by omission, almost research misconduct. So all the failed experiments, all the clinical trials where nothing happened, and that's most of them. So all that stuff magically sort of we forget about, and we just go, oh, I've got my 3 data points, aren't I a legend? And so actually what you need to do, Anvita, is bloody wring your hands, right? Get in there, get in the sink, mate, and get dirty, get all messy and get all the muck that's in the bottom of the sink and you don't know what it is. Get in there and write that up. And
Thank you.
Examiners will lose their mind, Anvita. They will lose their minds. Honestly, every Viva I've ever done around the world, everything I examine, every other examiner reports, I see if someone goes, oh, this is rigorous, this is transparent, oh, this was clear, so the candidate was clear, but really guide them through it, Anvita. So say, this went wrong, and this is how I handled these methodological, ontological challenges with rigor and clarity and transparency. Really, really over-egg that omelette, right? So get in there.
Yeah.
Get in their face and make them, oh, wow, what a journey. What a journey, all right? And so, full transparency in there, my darling Anvita. And Queen Mazin, it's lovely to see you, my darling.
Oh,
Hi, sweetheart. We're,
Are you... Sorry, I couldn't hear. Did you say hi to me,
I
Karima?
did, beautiful. I've just seen you.
Fabulous. Hello, everyone.
I'm about to send you an email, gorgeous one. So this is fantastic.
Oh, you're the best, Tara. I love
You're
you.
the best, Karima. But you'll see the other best in my life. Obviously, you're my favorite, but my second favorite is Jamie Quinton talking about I'd imagine experiments that don't work and how we handle disasters in research. What do you think about this, Jamie?
So first of all, Kate, I apologize for pushing in. I just wanted to reinforce Tara's message, in fact. So students that I supervise will all hear me say that when it comes to your thesis, I like to quote the Mozart quote about the spaces between the notes are as important as the notes themselves in music. So what you don't put in your PhD is just as important as what you do put in your PhD. Right? It's the fish that John West reject. But Tara's saying make it explicit, which is really important because normally it's implicit. And I wasn't going to say anything about the experimental sciences except that knowledge, right? This is all about knowledge. And the failed experiments, the things that don't work, contribute to knowledge just as much as the research that does. So it's not like Facebook. It's not like your highlight reel of all the great things and you leave out all the dirty, nasty things. They are as important. It's just what do you do with them? So that's all I wanted to say. That was my 2 cents. I'm Jamie Quinton. Back to your regularly scheduled channel.
But Jamie, can I just ask one question? What's my favourite journal that I always forget the name of? The
Journal of Irreproducible Results. Yeah.
So this is great. So Kylie, they did something great. They got one great data point and they could never do it again. And do you not publish it, or do you go, you know what? It's one data point. We haven't been able to reproduce it. Good luck, everybody. Here's a thing. I love that.
The journal that Cold Fusion should have been published.
Yeah, well, the thing is, wasn't that complete fabrication though? Isn't that journal though like one great thing happened and then we must have forgotten how we did it?
It wasn't really fabrication. It was just they tried to vigilantly eliminate all of the possible artifacts and interferences, and then they thought they did and went, well, it must be fusion. There's nothing left to describe it, and made the claim.
Oh, that is fantastic. So before we go to Queen Lorraine, we need to go to gorgeous Kate. But Jamie, darling, thank you. And thank you for that. This is really important. And look, I think in life, the failures teach us more than the successes. I don't want to be sort of weird 70s on this and kind of go, God, is the goth becoming a hippie? But actually the failures are important to acknowledge so that they're not replicated by other people, but also the failures are actually what research is. Queen Kate's in the house.
Yes, so I have spoken before about losing data and immediately notifying the ethics committee at my last university. And I was slam dunked by the supervisor. Why did you tell anyone? Why did you say anything? I said I had to. I made a mistake. Right. I made a mistake. And she was furious. She said, and I remember her words, why did you say anything? I said, I had to. She said, why did you tell anyone? I said, because I made a mistake. She said, who would have found out anyway? I was devastated. But that's now, my original comment was to talk about Anvita's hair, which I love.
Yes, yes.
I've got 3 daughters-in-law. One has got hair just like you, and her daughter has the same, her little girl. She's from Buenos Aires, Argentinian, and all the family have got masses of curls. I've got one Thai daughter-in-law who has long, straight black hair, and an Italian who has short hair. It's different styles every week. And I also have wigs.
Yes, yes. Yes, you are Moira. You are the Moira in our lives, Kate. You are. You know how much I love Moira. But can I say, Kate, whenever I talk to you, Kate, I think I have not spent my life well. Why?
Same colour as Jamie's. I could be his mother.
He's pretty excited by that. Don't encourage him. Don't encourage him, Kate. Don't encourage him. But no, look, Kate, whenever I talk with you, I'm going, why have I not married someone from Buenos Aires? I don't know if anybody else is thinking that. Why have I not married someone from Thailand? And then I could be having the hair conversation. So I've missed out, Kate, and I'm living vicariously through you. Instead, although I love him more than life, I've married a man from Western Sydney, and it just doesn't have the same vibe, does it, to Buenos Aires? You know, Parramatta, doesn't have the same, you know, Buenos Aires.
So I love your hair, Anvita.
Yes, so we love it. So Anvita's getting all the love today. This is fantastic. But now we were to, where are we going to Lorraine? Were we going to Lorraine?
Yes, thanks, Tara. Just a quick question and clarifying what to include in the thesis. So recently, one of the veterans that I was going to interview, very sadly, was killed in a motorbike accident. Nice. So I attended the funeral, and the funeral was everything that my thesis is about the peer support within this particular group of veterans.
Yes.
Is it appropriate? I have written a few pages because it was a helpful process to do that, to include that, and where will I include that?
Yes.
And obviously I was thinking about getting permission from the family to, out of respect,
yes,
to include. I don't think that will be a problem. I think the family will be fine, but yeah, I'm just.
Yes. Now, this is an interesting one, and I'll give my rendering of it, and then I'll present the caveat. So we've got a wonderful new student that's just started with us, the legendary Piper Bell. Love you, Piper Bell. Piper got involved in some of these types of conversations in a group research project, and it got a bit messy, right? So this is different for you. So this is key. So the first thing is, the argument would be in the old days, Lorraine, that you were at that funeral and this was your storying, your view, your personal experience of this event, right? So that is yours because you owned it, you were there, it was your sensory experience, right? Now, where I would put it, depending where the thesis ends up, considering, as you've said, it's almost metonymic of the whole argument of the thesis, I'd put it as a prologue. And the theses I know, and I'm looking at Kate, the theses I know that have had prologues, it acts like a lens of positionality through the thesis, and examiners love it. So you're not pretending it's research, you're not pretending it's representative data, it is an illustrative story from the researcher that is the lens of the thesis that follows. So it is your story, right? So that's the first thing. Now, in the old days, that's sort of, you know, so if something happened to me in a classroom, it happened to me, don't know about you, Paul, but if something happened to me in a classroom, it's my story and I tell that story and I publish it. Now, Lorraine, things are getting a little bit complicated in ethics land at the moment. So, for example, the whole new interesting movement that Dr. Leanne McRae's helping me with is, so there's a public tweet, right? Now, even a couple of years ago, here's a public tweet, I would cite the tweet, right? I've got the tweet, it's public, I've cited it, I've referenced it, it's done. Now, in ethics at the moment in this country, there's an argument that the person that sent that public tweet did not give you permission to extend the audience of that tweet beyond their public configuration. And I understand that as an argument. Can I say, though, let's follow that through. Whenever I publish a book that's a public book in a library, I don't overtly give permission to Lorraine or Kylie or Kate or Donna to say, oh, and by the way, I'm going to let you cite that, right? It's a public document that has been published and it's available to cite. So that's a challenging area. So, Lorraine, I think it's classy to contact the family and say, you were deeply moved by this and you would like to present your memorial feelings about that in a prologue for the thesis. Are they comfortable? Get that in writing. And probably, Lorraine, in this day and age, you probably have to just whack that through ethics. Just for safety reasons now, because it's getting very, very unclear. I mean, if a public tweet now supposedly requires an ethics clearance, then going to a funeral and speaking of one's experiences of that funeral. I mean, it could be configured as autoethnography. No, hate that word. Could be configured as autoethnography, could be configured as storying. So you could configure storying methodologies around it, and that's cool too. But I just checked with the chair of your ethics committee, your human ethics committee, and state, look, you went to this funeral, you are going to tell the story of it from your perspective alone. Are any further clearances required? So we've got really pretty cautious these days. I think it's right to be cautious. Oh, so Paul, sorry, mate, talk to us about the public tweets and stuff. Have I stuffed that up?
No, I agree. I think as soon as you're using a public tweet, well, I think it's different from an authored book or publication. When you're using something that's public in a social domain, as soon as you use it in a research context, you're changing the audience.
Yes.
And I think at that point, it definitely should trigger ethics, because you're changing the mode in which that information is being used. That's why I would always go down, check with the ethics team. Yeah, because the author hasn't written it in that context.
See, that's amazing to me, Paul, and you are convincing me. Whereas in the old days, me as a historian, and Queen Mary might want to talk about this, the whole point of ethics was, is anything changed or is anything harmed? That's the ethics moment. And the argument used to be, Mary, for us as historians, if we are using the archive online or offline and deploying unobtrusive research methods, so we're not creating any reactive data sets, then ethics was not required. But Mary, the idea that an historian going into an archive, that we would require ethics clearance for that, we're almost there now, I think, Mary.
I certainly think the kind of research I do, where I focus on Indigenous people, say on Noongar people in Western Australia, I would definitely not only get ethics approval, I would actually try to have what's it called? A reference group, a critical reference group to guide my research,
right,
as well.
Yes.
So, and that's difficult to organise because you need funding as well. But what I'm finding, as far because my research is unfunded, but because I'm getting ethics approval to speak to Wadandi people,
yes,
I'm also going to be able to talk to them about, what do you think I should do with this part of the research, or I've discovered this. I can talk to them about what the research is turning up as well.
So that's a co-design on interpretation and analysis.
Yeah, it definitely has to be co-design. It needs to. My research has come from Wadandi people wanting to know about the massacre and wanting it to be written about in academics, published academically.
So that's reactive. That's reactive data set.
Yeah.
It can create harm. So I understand that, and also by the Australian Code of Research Conduct, there is a very special section on Indigenous colleagues, Indigenous researchers, Indigenous knowledges, and we're getting a brand new guide, I believe. I just heard this week. We're getting a brand new guide that particularly works through the space between acknowledging Indigenous citizens, researchers, elders, and their expertise, acknowledgement in the article, but then actually rendering that knowledge authorship via the Australian Research Code. That's quite complicated work in between, and our remarkable Indigenous colleagues in this country are now doing that heavy lifting. That's hard stuff. But Mary, no, thank you for that. That's the other way through it. But it's just odd for me as the old-fashioned historian that just used to go into the UWA library or go into the Murdoch library and just sit on my clacker and, read the New Left Review. So reading the New Left Review, do you need ethics clearance for that? Because they didn't expect a bird in Perth to be reading the New Left Review 30 years after it was published. It gets interesting. I don't know the answers to this. That's why I'm oversharing, colleagues, and we can talk about it. And Jamie Quinton can explain to me how wrong I am this afternoon when we talk. Queen Maeve's in the house.
Yes, I'll take the hand down a second. I just want to say one thing that you used there, excuse me, the ideas of harm. And I think, there's a lot of work being done on harm, social harm, and so on. And the thing that my mind questions is the unknowability of harm.
Correct. Correct.
So it's sort of what was in a simpler world X years ago. It's a lot more unknowable what harm might be now in this highly complex.
Absolutely, and I think the social scientific rendering of harm in the 1970s, 80s and 90s, when, for example, Steve did all his work on acid house and rave cultures and just about got it through ethics committees. You can imagine he had his PhD students, Paul, going into the hacienda, eat up out of their mind, right? Writing about electronic dance music and ease, right? A-class pharmaceuticals, and that got through an ethics committee. Wouldn't have a bloody chance now. And the point is, Paul, isn't that interesting? Because if that work hadn't been written, think about the knowledge we wouldn't have had. So that's the other thing about harm that Maeve's making. But harm was hurting the environment, animals, people, you know, and you're trying to make a prediction, Maeve, about controlling that harm. But of course, as our wonderful ultra-realist criminologist, the legendary Thomas Raymond has argued very strongly. He said that really when we're dealing with harm, capitalism is causing harm. So the very idea that we are participating, we're talking about all these individualized corporeal harms, but actually the harm of the system is not being acknowledged. And I think that's a very strong argument, very strong argument. Brilliant. Where are we going now? Kate, do you want to, we didn't get the update, Kate, from you about the webinar on podcasting. I've been obsessed by it all week, and I've been asking what's going wrong in my life that I haven't gone to a webinar on podcasting. So how was it, Kate?
I had, well, one webinar on podcasting. It was very, very general, but this particular person runs courses on podcasting. I almost signed up, but I'm just not quite ready because I'm redoing my books. Years and years ago, I published several books on Amazon. At first they sold, but Amazon don't promote for you. So I joined a group called Ex Libris. Have you heard of them?
Yes, they're good too. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so I've signed up and paid the deposit to start with.
Yes.
And I'm redoing and updating my books one at a time.
Good.
Because I still have copyright. I own copyright, so they don't belong to Amazon.
Right.
So I decided to do the books first and then back to podcasting because I've just got too much to do.
I think that's great.
All in one day.
No.
But updating the books is fabulous. This group, Ex Libris, has sent me loads of really easy to do suggestions for spacing, margins, just all the stuff that we know about anyway.
Yes.
But it's just reinforcing and putting in an index, which I hadn't done with the last book. But updating information on dementia, aged care, advanced care directives, all the stuff I want to put in. And now that I can say I have this PhD thing as well, when I write about, you know, the author of these books. So I'll see how they go, but that comes first, and then podcasting.
That's brilliant. Now, they're a good firm. They're a good aggregator, Kate.
Good.
And that's great. For colleagues, have a look at that. But as I said, the one I'm working with at the moment, and Paul, what I'm doing with this one is I did a PhD setup document when dinosaurs roamed the earth. I've had it for about 25 years, and you know, I give a version of that away absolutely for free. But I'm thinking of, in fact, I'm doing this work now, putting content around it to help people the 3 months before they start, right? So, and as a cheap and cheerful, under $5, but I'm using the aggregator Draft to Digital. And I've found them so far. Now you can use Kate and I, we can do a test case between the pair of us, but I found Draft to Digital excellent. And no costing on it. They, like Authors Republic, only take 10% of the sales, so that there's nothing up front, and the coding is so strong now that it's pretty clean and crisp. But Kate, let's trial the two models and see how we go.
And for those of you who want to have a look, it's at the company, it's Ex Libris. I didn't even know how to say it. It's X, letter X, Libris. Do you want me to write it down?
That would be fantastic, but it's worth looking at, colleagues, because again, you know, for certain projects, Paul, not for the scholarly monographs and the stuff that we're writing, but for edgy things that are serving a purpose for a community where we can configure a good competitive price point, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do that? Straight to Queen Maeve. Oh my goodness.
Just wanted to throw in there that this morning I made a space where I thought I would read a chapter from a book, but I knew I wasn't of any capability to do that. So I thought, okay, I'll hit the vlog. So I went to the vlog on building income streams, which is where the draft to draft was mentioned. Yes, send me the check. And yeah, it is brilliant. And I've shared it out, and I'll share it out more, because there's lots of people who are academics, obviously, that are, you know, in the group who would be listening to this, but there's plenty of other people who would benefit from the same thing. And I think very few people share to that level, Tara. So I thank you for that, because all of us will benefit in the future. Might take some time, but all of us will benefit in the future from how strongly you've shared that.
But you've got to start from now. I mean, we can all gunner, coulda, shoulda on the income stream, particularly on subscription models. It's significant that you start now, and don't lose faith. Don't lose confidence. Just let it build. And I think that's crucial. Sorry, mate.
Well, sorry, I just thought of another thing that related to that, because you mentioned in the one about Substack and about blogging. I've actually had 2 blogs for like 10 years. Oh, you knew? Did you know?
No, you sent them to me when one applied for a PhD, madam.
Well, I always can't. I've got no idea what I have or haven't sent you, so I always assume, oh no, I haven't told her that. So, but I did enjoy doing them. And in actual fact, for my masters, I used that as part of my data, because I'd written a lot of poetry that was inspired around and related to the research. So I have done that before, and I wouldn't want to like practice. I think you mentioned practice blogging, and I thought to myself, I'm totally not going to practice blogging again. I've done a good share of that, 2 different ones. I had 2 different target audiences with each of them.
Brilliant. But move to Substack. Move to Substack now. And look, I think, Maeve, and I'll get Jamie's perspective on this, but I think, you know, so I've been gathering up these income streams. These are important income streams, right? They are important. They pay grocery bills. They pay fuel bills. And, you know, as I said in the video, in the Outrider, there are certain things that happen that clear your mortgage. And 3 of my mortgages in my life, and I've only had 3 of the mortgages in my life were cleared by a windfall payment from a publisher. So don't think these don't matter at all. And it's 100, 200, 1,000. Oh, look, we'll go straight to Jamie, just his opinion, and then we'll go to the rain. But Jamie, you've obviously married a humanities person that writes books and stuff. And I know when we were at one of our temporary accommodation, was it the Melbourne, weird place we were in Melbourne, the Melbourne Hotel, where we were editing up, was it 12 Rules? 12 Rules for Academic Life.
It was either that or it was the comma. It was one of those 2.
Yeah, but we were working with Springer, do you remember? The Springer, and you were horrified at the bagginess of the editing, and I was having to, you know, trying to help the subby, where I'd be making a correction. I was having to make it 5 and 6 times because they weren't correct. And I remember your face going, is this normal? That's
right. So yeah. So before I met Tara, I was not trained in any of these ways. You know, I was actually primary socialized, if you like, in STEM. To pander to the Springer Elsevier model, which is they own your butt and you pay for the privilege, right? Essentially. So this notion of, in the humanities, the scholars publish their work and they get the financial benefit of it rather than Elsevier and Springer, is one of those things where you go, well, duh, you know, why didn't we get told this in the first place? So So there's a huge shift in ignorance associated with that. Now, with regard to the editing stuff, the only thing I've seen in my lifetime that's been on par with just how bad the Singapore branch from Springer was. Hang on, am I creating slander by saying?
No. Well, they were. We've got the multiple versions. Sadly, it worked out well in the end, though. Let's give it a happy 10.
But there's nothing more frustrating than spending a huge amount of effort making detailed corrections in accordance with instructions, and then they send you a revised version that shows that they didn't adopt the changes that you did, right? So, and you must have had what, Tara? You must have had like 4 goes at that.
Yeah.
You know, talk about justifiable homicide.
Yeah, and of course we were in temporary accommodation, sort of with a bar fridge. We lived with a bar fridge for about.
The only thing I've seen in my life that's comparable with that, and I don't want to talk about my divorce really, but when a lawyer sends you a pre-populated financial agreement that's related to a divorce and they didn't update your name in the document, you see that they've cut and paste stuff, and then they charge you to send you this document. You make the changes and you send it back. They charge you because you've sent them something. They then adopt some of the changes, but not all of them, and send it back to you. And then they charge you for sending it back to you. And then you go, I just made all these changes and you didn't adopt them, damn it. And let's do it again. So then you do it again and you send it back and they charge you for the privilege of sending it back. And this is very much like what this experience was like in Melbourne.
So can I say, Jamie, and we've just got to clarify, because Donna, this is like oversharing Friday, Thursday night for you. So can I just check, Jamie, when we're dealing with that series of divorce papers, can I just check, should I be expecting an arrival in Darwin shortly? Should there be a courier at some point with a document? Is this?
No? I can't afford it because I don't publish enough things to pay for it. No, of course not.
Jamie Quinton, you're delightful. But it was that. So the reason I just raised that story, colleague, is for Jamie as an outsider. We mustn't just sort of celebrate and commemorate how fantastic academic authors are. We work with them. We work with them on a daily basis. It's important. Open access, dissemination, books, it matters. But let's not sort of celebrate them as sort of being these great benevolent forces in the culture, okay? They take a lot out of our butt on a daily basis, right? It's important to do that work, but my goodness me.
But if you can generate an income stream for yourself, why wouldn't you?
Well, that's right. And so that's why I was doing that work for me, I suppose, doing that work for us, Jamie, and I've done a lot of it in the past and I've done pretty well out of it. So it's just a matter, Maeve, about looking at what exists now and oversharing it to see if one of those things might be useful for people. Brilliant. Queen Lorraine's in the house. Come on, girlfriend.
Thank you. Sorry, all the questions this week. First year, what can I say? And Kate's put there, obviously, about that encouragement, Tara, and I just feel so safe to actually ask these questions here and not feel silly for saying. Anyway, so another question for you, which was sparked by Maeve mentioning about poetry. So one of my research participants has given me 2 pieces of poetry. He's a Vietnam vet, so powerful, amazing, and he would like them included in the thesis, right? But I don't want to not include his name. But of course, the confidentiality. Most of the participants, they already use nicknames.
Yes.
I would say 80% of them have said they just want to use their already nickname that they use. But obviously that will make them identifiable with other people within the group, not necessarily the public.
Yes.
I don't know what to do because I think this gentleman's in his late 70s. I think if I don't put his name as the author of the poetry, he won't understand the reasoning behind that. So I'm a little bit, I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, I think they're 2 separate issues. I think for the names, for the nicknames that are known in the etic communities, I think that you need to go back to ethics. So if they are identifiable, then they are identifiable. And unless you've got an ethics approval, as you know, often historians get merry when we're doing oral history, where obviously the name has to be there and the person has to sign it. And you go through all those protocols with oral history. If you haven't signed that identifiability issue in ethics, then you've got to de-identify, but go back and check with ethics. Now, for the gentleman with the poetry, it gets interesting. Have those poems been published in any form in the past?
One, he said, was in a magazine a very long time ago.
Great. So it's published work, so you can reference it. Yeah. So you can reference it and present it in full, and there's his name.
Yeah.
And so once his name's there once, a secondary option for him would be that the second poem gets published somewhere too, on a blog, on a video, something like that, and you can use it. And the issue is, where it gets interesting, Lorraine, is once one of the poems is listed for you, which is identifiable, what are you meant to do with the second one?
Yes.
So certainly the first one can be published without a doubt. Find that reference.
I need to find where the
even if it was like, do you remember that journal Overland? Like Overland in the 70s? Oh wow. Some Meanjin in the 70s. So they've had a lot of poetry, which was terrific, can I say? So you find that, reference it, and then see if we can help him get it published somewhere else, which is lovely for him.
What if it was to be published in like the Air Force Association? You know, they run a magazine.
Spot on. Do that, Lorraine. That is absolutely fantastic.
Yes, I love talking to you.
I love talking to you too. And by the way, can we see the glamour that Susan, my new friend, this woman that's changed my life this week, Susan, you have been spoken about throughout much of Australia this week. You are an amazing human being, and we feel lucky to know you. So just good evening, good afternoon, Susan.
Good evening. It's 8:30 here, almost 8:30 here.
Oh, I wish I looked as fabulous as you as 8:30 at night. You should see me at 8:30. The bloody mascara's down my face, the lipstick's around my ear. Oh, Susan, Susan, you're amazing. So you've joined us for the last little bit of what we call digital office hours. We hope to see you in Right Club next, but this is sort of the interesting Q&A component where we all sort of work out what we think about things. And these people that you're seeing on the screen change my life every week. Unbelievable. So Maeve, our Susan's back. Oh, I'm so excited. I love Susan. Susan's so amazing. But Maeve, darling, we're probably at last question. Is there anything anybody is raising or wants to go to just before, or give me homework to look at this week?
I'll email you.
You'll email me. Fantastic. So can I just check, Donna, darling, we haven't checked in with you for a couple of weeks. Just checking you're all right. You're well. The research is going well, my love.
I just submitted my ethics application at lunchtime today, so jury's out. It'll probably come back. But it was interesting because, as you know, I'm hoping to interview mothers of children who went through the closed adoption. And I wanted, some of the stuff I'd read was around, you know, there's a presumption sometimes that people will want anonymity, and actually people might feel empowered by giving them voice and allowing the use of the name. And yet in the end, it was batted about, and it's gone to ethics with anonymity, and people can select a pseudonym, because my supervisors were of a view that it made it very messy to try to incorporate some people using their names and being identifiable and others not. Mixed feelings about it, to be honest, because I think these people have lived in the shadows long enough, but you know, at the same time, I've got to pass ethics to get to them. So
yeah, I mean, Donna, my line would be, the project is so important. We just need to get the project moving and out, and that's powerful. But as Mary and I know, as the old historians of the community, it was great. It was difficult in the old days. You have layers of forms that people could sign to disclose their level of comfort, right? So I'm comfortable for a pseudonym, I'm comfortable for this. And you'd go into an oral history interview with 16 different forms, and people would select the mode of anonymous or public that they were comfortable with. And there was sort of agency to that, which I adore. And I think we've lost that, Donna.
Yeah, feels that way a wee bit, you know, from where I'm sitting with it. I would have much preferred to have allowed the participants to have some control over that, but I need to listen to
Yeah, the
so
greater good. The greater good's important. But Donna, could I get you to just, and obviously you can watch back this digital office hours to write this down. This is a very important methodological piece that you could write. I would love to read a methodology about your engagement with how you've made those ethical decisions and the consequences of them. I think that's a piece in and of itself, Donna.
Okay. Mm.
Ponder that.
Yeah.
Watch this back and we might talk about it again next week. I'll think about it too. So colleagues, I'm so excited. Thank you all for being with us. We've got to see Jane. We're all just a bit in love with Jane. We've got to see Susan again. And just like Susan is like the best of humanity. It's unbelievably fabulous. So look, colleagues, I will see you next week. We know that Paul's about to do something quite amazing in Write Club. Kylie, I don't know if you've seen what's going to go on here. This is going to be like recording of recording of recording of recording. So this is like multi-modality experiment in Write Club. So
It'll be like one of those mirror rooms. Look out.
Look, it feels like Matrix, mate. I'll get the latex out and hope for the best, which is a great way to end what has been more of the R-rated rendering of digital office hours than normal. Colleagues, thank you so much for your time. I'll see many of you in Write Club. Sleep well, Queen Donna. We love you. We are proud of you, and see you at Write Club in 2 minutes. See you on the other side.
Bye.